Well, it's official. The Scho-Zone has gone international. I'll be joined by our guest from the United Kingdom today, Mark Coope, on this episode of the Scho-Zone. All right, everybody, welcome to the Scho-Zone. It is your host, Ryan Schofield, coming at you from the DeGen here on a Monday afternoon. I'm not sure when you'll hear this. We could be talking about plenty of stuff that happened in the NFL yesterday. We could be talking about the exciting World Series matchup, but that's not what we're here for today. I am here to have our international guest over here. We are going to be bringing on Mr. Mark Coope. Mark, welcome to the Scho-Zone. How are we doing today?
We're doing really well, Ryan. How's yourself?
I'm just getting the piss and vinegar flowing through the veins today. I just went to the gym. I haven't had any coffee yet. So believe it or not, this is me pre-caffeine. Pretty high energy guy here, but Mark and I'm on a little place where I go to find guests. Mark was somebody who reached out to me. I give everybody a shot. I'll be honest. I'll say, judging a book by its cover, I was like, okay, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. Then Mark, I got on the little chat with and couldn't understand a word or two of he said. And I thought maybe, is this guy drunk? But then I found out he's just over in England, correct?
Yeah, I'm not drunk. I'm just English.
Well, I mean, aren't they kind of interchangeable terms though, or is that more of an Irish thing?
There's certainly two words you can use in the same sentence. That's for sure.
There's only two words you can use in the same sentence.
There are certainly two words you can use in the same sentence. Drunk and English.
Well, I guess
I think the Irish do beat us on that one.
But you guys are more sophisticated about it. Like we're kind of like the rough and tumble, kind of like is that a fair assumption? Or I don't know. I'm kind of here to learn from you a little bit.
Yeah, I think you could call us sophisticated, aloof, or whatever. I mean, we just have a crazy accent and we act very posh. But
it's very okay. I know it's just so it seems like you guys are so well spoken, whereas the Irish just kind of like even over here we're not exactly there's a big rift over here. Like I'm from a town that says mostly it's like half Irish, half Italian, and it's like you can't have two more opposite cultures. But then, strangely enough, all the guys just married each other's sisters, so now they're all just kind of blended families.
At least it's not the brothers.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. So we're off to a good start here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, my mum was Irish. My mum was completely Irish, but she lived in Oldham and she came over to Oldham when she was about 14 or something like that. So, but she lost her accent. But you could see it in certain things. You could hear it in certain things she said. Like she instead of saying three, she'd say tree.
Now, Mark, I just have to clarify right there. Actually, just real quickly, I just realized something. When you said at least they're married each other's sisters, and you said the brothers, you meant marrying each other's brothers. Is over in America, the brothers can mean something different.
No. Yeah, sorry.
No. I just wanted to clarify that one up so I didn't have so I don't get the vilified too bad.
No,
I mean, still laugh at your joke regardless. So,
where have you gone?
What's up?
I'm back. What happened there?
You're back. Okay. Maybe could be a connection thing. Oh, okay. It looks like Mark's having a little bit of a connection issue here. So we had our first little, international thing. Again, the thoughts and opinions of the guests on the Scho-Zone do not necessarily always reflect the host. But Mark is sounds like he's a bit of a ball breaker. I'm gonna just kind of riff a little bit while Mark gets himself situated. I'm gonna message him real quickly. This is. Everything was going so well. I had, a great guest, or two great guest appearances with no technical difficulties. We can always edit these out. So I'm still going. Well, I guess while we're waiting for Mark to get back here, I'm going to just kind of, I guess I want to say anything. Maybe I'll even lead into this with him. Yesterday I couldn't help but I work during the day on Sunday, so I don't really I follow up on football afterwards. I usually watch the extended highlights to kind of see what I really don't even care to see anymore. The one game I did watch yesterday was the Jets and the Steelers, which I was feeling good about my little picks there. I posted my video that I had. I had the one loss I had during the afternoon was the Packers by a hook. I had the Packers -2.5 on my contest picks. Thankfully, I bet them on the money line on a parlay because I got the 3. Mark said he's just going to be back in 1 second. But yeah, I lost by the hook on that one. And then, I should have listened to my own self on what I said about the Jets. I said the Jets have been like 1 or 2 plays away from winning a bunch of games, except for the first one. And, maybe they're going to turn it around. But in reality, it just must have been that they're just not as good of a team. We're back with Mark now. Mark, okay, it was probably internet connection over there. Not sure how the Wi-Fi is over across the pond.
I think I need to put more coal on the boiler to get this team going again.
Okay, well, we'll see what's going. So Mark, Mark, one of the things you cracked me up about was, I could sense that there's a sense of national pride that you have over there when you did say that, your mother's 100% Irish, but you forgive her for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've got to do that. I know,
we all love our mothers, we have those shows.
Well, yeah, but she's long gone now, unfortunately. She's passed away and joined my dad up wherever they are. So
all right, yeah. No, I'm sorry.
No,
sorry to hear that. I lost my father, and it's it's always a rough thing, but just kind of one of those, my father always told me while he was alive, hey Ryan, life goes on.
Absolutely. I mean, it's part of life, and you can't get out of life without that happening. It's going to happen to all of us. It's inevitable. It's just sad when it does.
It is, no one wants it to happen. And I think that what happens though is with some people, and I can even use myself for an example, and maybe we can even lead this into some things we're going to talk about with you, is people who have a little bit more going on that maybe they're not willing to really go into, they'll use that as their crutch that they walk on a little bit. I know I did this myself. I was a bit of a mess. I was basically an alcoholic, and I just kind of, okay, father died. Cool. I can use that as my excuse now.
Yeah. You're right there. It is a people are finding 1,000,001 excuses for justifying what they do, as opposed to actually finding 1,000,001 reasons for not doing it. And I was the same. I mean, I've just come through some bad times with PTSD and whatnot. Really, really bad times, almost to the point where I almost took my own life. But
well, we're glad you didn't do that. You're here with us.
Yeah, but or is it just a ghost?
Now, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I've even, kind of, and this is something I'm more open in discussing on this forum, is that, I mean, I don't think I was ever quite at the point where I would say the closest I would ever have been is that I was willing to let whatever happened. I just I let go of the safety nets that you put on with things. And I was just like, hey, if something fucked up happens, then it just was meant to happen. Even though it's not meant to happen, you put yourself in some bad spots there.
Absolutely. And, I mean, I just went downhill. But the good thing is that I've got out of it, and I just love life at the moment. Life is incredible.
Right. And that's what I want to have you here to encourage, is that, it seems like you're, looking at, your little background here. It seems like you have a history in this, and that, you're using your newfound lease, I guess I'd say, to try to help others, which is kind of what I'm trying in a roundabout way to do on this show.
Absolutely. That's what we're on the planet for, isn't it? I mean, we can be selfish and insular, or we can just look towards ourselves, or we can look at the bigger picture and look around and see that whatever's going on all over the world, and there are some nasty places in the world, as we know, and there are some nasty places in England and America and all over. But at the end of the day, people are people, and as long as we treat people with respect and not hatred, then the world's going to be a much better place. The sooner we start doing that, the sooner the world will be a better place, when we can all work together, no matter where we're from, what culture we're from. My mum's Irish, like I say, I forgive her for that. But, I have nothing against that. I've been to Ireland 3 or 4 times myself. It's a beautiful place. If you can drink Guinness, you're okay.
So I quit drinking, but I still drink the Guinness Zeros. Those are still they're a delicious beverage. They're still, I mean, and I wish I could still drink the real stuff, but the problem is I have one of those and then it turns into 20.
Yeah. I mean, and that's got to be an incredible kudos to you, because just to have that willpower to say, knowing that you can't have a drink again. I've stopped drinking. I've almost done sober October, apart from a bottle of wine. We'll take a bottle of wine out of the equation, but I've almost done sober October, and I feel so much better for it. I mean, but I'm not stopping drinking. I like to have a drink, but not like I used to. Not like, I mean, when I was playing rugby, it was just crazy. Saturday nights were just like a day down at the Wild West.
I know all about it, my friend. I mean, those sports culture things. Because here's the thing: is that especially in a sport like rugby, is that you have and I never have played rugby, and I want to ask a little bit about more about the rugby. But when you're involved in a high testosterone, high adrenaline event, it is very, very difficult to then turn that switch off.
It is, and then plus you get the peer pressure, don't you? Because I played rugby league, which is slightly different to rugby union. We've all got our opinions of it. I'm not going to express them, but it's the same sort of thing. You're in this high adrenaline sport, as you say, and then when you get out in the bar after, then the contest continues. You've moved your challenge from off the pitch into the bar then with the opposition. It's who can drink the most and who can drink the quickest and who can drink the yard of ale and all that. That becomes the norm. That becomes the other side of the sport. And then you end up going out with your mates and you're getting home at 2:00 in the morning in a bucket.
So you say that it's like that when you say with the competition afterwards, it's still in good fun though, correct?
Yeah.
That's what I like hearing. I like that. This is something that's bothering me about American sports versus international sports. We have the NHL over here, which is very, very, very much not American-born players in the NHL. And one of the big things about them is that they play in the Stanley Cup Finals for 7 games at a time. These guys are trying to almost kill each other, but they always shake hands at the end of the game. We have over here, we have guys who act like petulant childs as adults. They walk off the field. They want to start a fight when they lost, or they'll never want to talk to another person again. And, I've always had the thing. I mean, I just play recreational sports right now where it's like, even when I did play sports, you have until the walk off the field to get it out of your system. Once you walk off the field, it's over with. That's, I never have. I mean, I can't say that was always the case when I was an immature teenager, which who wants to still do what they did when they were a teenager? Like when somebody says, I've always done it this way, and I'm guilty of this myself, you're just admitting to not growing as a person.
Yeah. No, I mean, the rugby, the violence, should we say, the energy, the testosterone, that's all left on the field. You come off the field, you shake hands, and it's like, you might have a black eye, you might have a broken nose, you can have a few bruises, but whatever happened on the field stays on the field. You come off, and it's like, well, let's go and have a beer. It's crazy, really.
and we've lost that one too. It's kind of like now again, I don't know how things are over there, but like I'm somebody, I hung out in the bar scene a lot, and this even kind of passed before I was younger, but like the older generation than me, it would be, hey, if you and somebody got into an argument and the words started getting too intense, hey, you two need to go outside and figure that out. Yeah. And then that was it. That was the everything was over that they're there. We don't do that anymore right now. One, people do get hurt, obviously, or they which they bring themselves up to, but now it's always what's going to be the backlash of this. Okay, I beat this guy up. Now who's going to come after me? Kind of thing. And it's made it to where you just mind your own fucking business now.
That's the same over here. I mean, it's very similar. I mean, when we used to go out on a Saturday night years and years ago when we were playing rugby, and I'm talking 30 years ago, you go out, you have a few beers inside. Yeah, you get in a bit of a ruckus with people. You have a bit of might perhaps occasionally a few punches were thrown. I was always too knackered to fight after a rugby game anyway. But now you're going to look out for knives. You're going to look out for bottles. You're going to look out for all sorts. People just use weapons all the time now. It's just
we got guns over here, man.
Yeah. That's one thing. That's one thing that shocked me. That every time I go abroad, and particularly when I've been to the States about 6 times, that's what always took me about it. I felt so intimidated. You'd walk past someone like, security guard, and you'd be there with this gun about this big, or so it seemed it was this big. I know they're not. And it's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just walking past you.
But you don't seem like a guy who, I mean, that's to me, because just in talking to you, or at least the perception that I made of you just in a brief conversation, what I gather is that you don't seem like somebody who gets intimidated too easily, or, I mean, you do, you one of the things that we have on here is you're a jiu-jitsu instructor. So ultimately, yes. if somebody just wants hand-to-hand combat with you, you're not intimidated.
No, but I will back off. If somebody wants to fight with me, then they've got to come after me, because I will back off. I just don't see the point of fighting. Particularly Jiu-Jitsu is brilliant. It's a fantastic, and it is traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu they do. It's not the Brazilian. It is really the basically from the samurais of the 5th century. It's way back when.
And from what I understand, that's a defensive martial art. It's actually exactly what it is that if you give me no choice, I'm going to defend myself. It's not an attacking art. Now, what's the difference between traditional and Brazilian? Because I mean, most, when you, I'm very limited in the scope of the mixed martial arts, which is really kind of one of the biggest growing sports out there. I feel like that you hear more about the Brazilian than you hear about the traditional. What exactly is the difference in that?
You do definitely, because we actually, our dojo now we rent some space off a club that is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mixed martial arts. And their emphasis seems to be a lot more on the fighting side of it, the combat side of things, the competition. So the training physically hard. The actual moves they do are impressive, but they seem to what we do limited. It's about taking somebody down, taking the leg down. This is how I understand it from what I'm watching them. Taking the leg down, getting them on the floor, grappling with them on the floor. Now, what I teach, particularly my students, is don't even get involved. If somebody wants to cause trouble with you, back off, and as soon as you get a clear space between you and them, turn tail and run. Run as fast as you can, make as much noise as you can. But we have a lot more, should we say, weapons in our armory. The throws we do, to get up to black belt, you're going to have to learn about 100 different throws, over 100 different ways of throwing somebody or putting somebody on the floor. We don't literally, what I teach basically to my students is if someone attacks you, you do a block and you break their arm. No messing about, break their arm. Hit them in the solar plexus. Get punched in the solar plexus, you're going down, no matter who you are.
Sorry. What I was going to ask you is that, you did see me. I sent you the video of me in somebody's dojo. Now, for starters, for me with having no form, how do you think I did?
Well, that just goes to show the futility of it all, really, doesn't it? You could be a first dan, a second dan, a 10th dan. But if somebody gets that first punch, and in your case, the knife strike, you're out the ball game anyway, aren't you? Don't matter who you are. If that knife comes in, unless you landed it, what's the guy going to do with half his stomach ripped out? That's how I look at it, and I teach my students. If someone pulls a knife on you, don't even hang around. I always ask them what's the best defense against someone with a knife attack, and they'll say, "Oh, your arms, your legs," and I'll say, "No, back off, get a distance, turn and run. Don't even." It takes a split second for someone to stick a knife in you. Now you're going about, I can look after myself. Yeah, I can, one-on-one, I'm great. 6 years ago, and this was they've caused me PTSD, I got attacked on my own driveway outside my house. Okay. By about 20 youths, 20 of them.
Wow.
A, I had no chance anyway just because of the numbers. But B, I had no chance anyway when they brought the weapons out. Because I walked past one and I did everything that I'm not supposed to do. I didn't assess the situation like I was supposed to do. And I just walked straight into them, which was a mistake. I wasn't violent. I was concerned, but I wasn't angry. But as I walked past one guy, next thing I know, I'm on the floor. And that was because as I walked past him, he smacked me with a bottle on the head. And the bottle came across my head there. That's why I got that dent and that cut.
I can kind of see it.
Smashed my nose. So I got up to face him to say, what's going on here? By this time, my head was scrambled. And I'm on the floor again. So his mate from behind hit me on the back of the head with a bottle. Bang. So I got it twice on the head with bottles. And that's a Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Yeah, one-on-one, or even both of them together without weapons, they probably wouldn't have stood a chance against me. Jiu-Jitsu black belt, 20 years of rugby league. I can take a hit, but it's not something I like doing. I stood up again to face the guy who hit me the second time, just as he was swinging the bottle again in an arc, which I managed to block. And then I hit him, but it was horrible. It was horrible. These are what questioned about whether I should be doing martial arts. I actually questioned myself at this stage whether I should be doing this, whether I should be teaching people what I did. Because I hit this guy so hard, I felt every single bone in his nose and his cheeks crumple. I literally felt them under my fist. and I hit him. And I've struggled for 6 years with that.
That was what caused the trauma, was the pain that you inflicted on somebody.
Yeah.
And not the pain that somebody inflicted on you. That's interesting to me.
No, that was when I finally got to sit down in front of the therapist and we got talking about it. Yeah, the trauma that went on was horrendous. You know, being hurt, because I was hurt for a long while. To be honest, I should have died. I really should have died that night, because to be hit twice on the head with a bottle, and they weren't just soft blows. I didn't even have a concussion. Got a thick head. I think.
I'm glad you're laughing to break some tension to this one, because it's going to play. I mean, you know, that's obviously a scary situation you just described there.
It was at the time it wasn't, and it seemed to go on for about 15 minutes. In reality, it was probably less than a minute. All this that went on.
Things have a tendency to slow down. So what happens is that, and this is I'm not sure if you're familiar with this concept called flow. Shesh Mahali, I believe, is the guy's name who kind of authored it, and that's when the degree of challenge and the degree of reward. Not saying that there was living was the reward, I guess I would say. And the challenge is that they're beating me with weapons. When that happens, things slow down, where it's almost like have you ever heard of the movie over here, The Matrix?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost like when you see how they're dodging the bullets kind of thing, like, you know, it probably slowed down as much to you. So you were aware of your situation, I guess I would say. Is that accurate?
They did. Yeah. They did something similar in 300, didn't they, about the Spartans? Well, Gerard Butler in it. They did something similar in that.
Gerard Butler, the actor, correct?
Yeah, I did. Have you seen the film 300?
No, I have not. I'm just familiar with his.
It's a great film. But they do something similar to that in the action shots. You know, you'll see one of the Spartans jump up and he'll move in slow motion, and then at the last second they'll speed up. It's quite good, actually. It's quite effective.
Now, what was the motive behind this attack? Were they trying to rob you, or what was it going on?
No.
Random hooligans?
No, they'd already done that. My wife and my eldest daughter, we'd gone to a friend's 60th birthday party. We'd left our 14-year-old at home, Shannon. We'd left her at home with 4 of her girlfriends. And they were just having a scary movie and pizza night. And I don't understand that either. I don't understand why young girls want to watch scary movies. Well, anyone wants to watch a scary movie. Come on. Give me a good old comedy any day. What happened was...
It's
and
I can't understand this one either, Mark. There was a little bit, I'm not sure whatever makes it across the pond. We know with the internet, we're all connected now, which is a good thing and a bad thing. We can talk about both sides of that if we wanted to. But there was a question out there. If you were a woman walking in the woods and you saw a random guy, or you saw a bear, which one would you be more scared of? And women said that they would be less scared of the bear than they would be of the random guy, which is just very, very interesting to me, that a bear versus the average guy is they're more scared of the average guy than a bear.
Yeah, I can understand that to a certain extent, because I can see where they're coming from on that, but I don't know. If it's Yogi, you'd be all right. If it's Yogi Bear, you'd be fine, won't you? Or Pooh Bear, but if it's a grizzly, I think you might be in a spot of trouble there. But I can understand that. So what had happened was they're having this movie in pizzas, which we'd left them the money for. And then one of the girls decided to phone a boyfriend who came round. She let him in, who then phoned his mates. And before you know it, there's 30, 40 people milling about in the house. You know, just wrecking the house, basically. They smashed doors, they broke doors, they smashed walls. They even threw, and this is what they even threw, you know, the cereals, cornflakes, and that sort of stuff. They threw them all over the kitchen floor. We came in, there was just like a layer of cornflakes and stuff. I mean, and then they nicked the bottles they hit me with. I collected single malt whiskies. I had about 12 of them, different ones, different makes. And that's what they nicked that, a load of bottles of wine, and that's what they hit me with. They didn't even with my own gear. They didn't even get their own stuff. How cheeky is that?
And there's an expression over here: never get shot with your own gun. But that's not that's not a conventional weapon. You don't leave a bottle of liquor. You're worried about the weapon of that bottle of liquor being what you might do to yourself when you drink it. You know, not fucking what somebody's gonna. You know, like it's. I mean, if every place I was in that had a bottle was considered to be a fucking hostile territory, I wouldn't even be able to leave this corner of my apartments.
And that's what happened. So I mean, and at that stage, after I hit the guy, it was just I just went feral. I would say I just went wild. I turned into just this incredible whatever, and basically if it moved, I hit it. I mean, at the end of the day, there were kids from about 16 to 24-year-old, but they should know better. You should know better. You can't go into someone's house. You can't take stuff out of someone's house, and you can't hit people. You can't go around hitting people on the every bottles. But I struggled for 6 years with this punch, just this one punch, and it was, if you can imagine, it was probably the Moab. I know that you Americans had the Moabs in the Second World War, mother of all bombs, which were brilliant. It was a Moab of a punch. It was probably one I'm never going to throw again in my life. Everything were right about it.
I know this. I mean, it's actually, when you said this, it just triggered a memory of me, and I'm going to be very vague because, I don't want to, the person, if he ever was to listen to this, to know I was talking about him or anything, but I had a buddy who ended up in a circumstance where it was a couple guys were attacking his friend. And this was, again, it sounds like that alcohol was the big thing that's going to be in common. Those guys had drank those bottles, correct?
Yeah, they drank them, but I think they still had some left in it. They were drinking it.
Right, they were drinking it. And then what happens is that with drinking, as I realize, is that, there's the two voices on your shoulder, the good voice and the bad voice. And when you get the drinking, the bad voice just makes sure that the good voice goes away. And suddenly there's just no, like, you basically, like when you watch a 3-year-old child, they don't have any idea of consequences, or they just want to do what they want to do in that exact moment. It basically brings you back into that kind of state of mind there. But this guy ended up, people had jumped one of his friends, probably because this was a guy who looked like he was a big guy, but what it really wasn't. He was one of the most harmless guys we knew when I heard this story. But my buddy ended up chasing this group down and caught somebody, and he hit the guy, and he's like, when I hit this guy, I heard a sound that'll haunt me for the rest of my life. Yeah. And it's realizing there's an expression I've heard before. It's called there's two tragedies in life, and one is getting what you want, and the other is not getting one's not getting what you want, and the other one's getting what you want. We all like to think that we're, if we're wired as an alpha male, we can do that kind of damage on somebody. It makes you feel empowered until you actually do it, and you're like, oh my god, you have to look at your hand and know that you have a weapon attached to it. That you don't look at your hand as a tool anymore. It's a weapon.
Yeah, that is the perfect description of it. Perfect description of what happened, because I realized at that time that I was a weapon. Everything I've been trained, my hands, my elbows, my knees, my feet were trained as weapons, and to actually see that come into fruition of what it can actually do with the correct application, that, I'll be honest, I think it scared the life out of me. That actually scared me more. It
sounds like it almost did. You said that, that you were contemplating at one point in time. I mean, it did legitimately scare the life out of you.
I went downhill so bad, so fast, and I put, even now, because this is only 6 months since I come out, it's only starts this year that I started coming out of it. Even now, we're struggling to get back to where we were 7 years ago, because I just destroyed everything financially. I destroyed my own business. I destroyed everything. I just retreated so far and so deep into my shell. I don't mean Michelle the lady. I mean my shell.
Yeah, your shell. And I got you there. But thanks for the clarification, though.
So I thought I'd better put that way.
Deep in Michelle is not a bad place to be.
No, but I'd end up in the divorce courts.
But well, yes. But I mean, you said though is that you did all the training. So I mean, I can kind of go a different way with this one. Of that, I would say, we forget as human beings that we are creatures, we are animals, and that I believe that we actually, if we were to kind of study the history of man, our inherent nature is to do that, and we've been kind of trying to program ourselves out of it. So it's like, all of the way that you raise a child. I mean, if you just let a kid run free, he's going to do some bad things. It's, what we do is when we're raising them, I mean, I've never raised a child, but I just think back to how I was, it's the whole, no, don't do that. Like kind of this training and teaching to not act on impulses, more or less, because our impulses are usually not good when we get into that part of the brain.
Absolutely, but that is supposed to be what sets us aside from the animals, isn't it? The intelligence factor that we're supposed to have that sets us aside. That we don't do this because it's bad. I mean, an animal would. I mean, we have an husky,
and that's why when we watch reckless behavior here, over here, if you call an unruly group of people animals, they call you racist. It's like, well, but I mean, it's like, I can understand the connotations that come from that one, but at the end of the day, that's animal behavior. And whether it's white or black or, brown, yellow, whatever. I mean, whenever a large group of people is doing malicious behavior, they're behaving like animals.
Absolutely, yeah, because they lost all human rationale, haven't they, at that stage? I mean, it's just like the football fans of the 70s and early 80s over here. I mean, that was incredible. That was just, well, the 80s and then all through the 80s, really. I mean, that was just so intense. Every football game every soccer match going on. It was all about, it wasn't about the football and the supporters of footballs. It was all about territory. We were coming into your territory and we were going to stay here. We were going to take your territory. And that's what it was about. The violence in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I don't know whether you got any shots of that over at the time. And it was horrendous.
And that was something I had talked about with you where it's like, we're in America now here. Now, like, I have yet to log on to Twitter yet today, but I know when I do log on to Twitter, I'm going to see videos of the NFL games from yesterday. And I'm just going to see a couple of people beating the shit out of each other, or possibly not just beating the shit out of one guy, something like that. And it's all going to be because they're wearing a different jersey.
Yeah.
It's really what it all boils down to, or something like that, or anything that started from that incident is going to be because that guy wore a different jersey, or that guy likes something I don't like. What's strange, and what we talked about when we were with you, is that, or it's meant when I chatted with you briefly earlier, is we've got this big, giant, fucking massive land over here. So, like, the cities are all a couple hundred miles away from each other, whereas in your neck of the woods or in your part of the world, there's a couple hundred miles that all of these are in. So it really is territorial. Like, we know when we have high school sports, here, that's like the distance from my high school and our rival high school is the difference between a rival professional club and a rival, professional club over there, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yeah. I mean, you've got 92 professional league clubs in England in the space.
And that's the size of what we call New England over here, which is, a couple states that are kind of just all checkered around there. That's a consolidated mess, I guess you would say.
It can be, yeah. So when you get, like I'm a Liverpool supporter for my sins. Yesterday was Liverpool played Chelsea at Anfield in Liverpool, but there must have been 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 Chelsea fans there. Now that's a big group of people. All right, there was 50, 60,000 Liverpool supporters, but that's still a big group of people in one area to cause trouble, if they wanted to cause trouble, that have to be managed. But they're finding now over here now that it's not the older people, like it is the teenagers that are causing the problems.
Well, because what happens is that the teenagers and I noticed this happening there, is that I think that there was a period of time where that stuff was a bit more organic in how it happens. Now it's that, I am going to this, therefore I must do this, is kind of the attitude that happens, is that like, we're not real fans unless this happens. We have to make this happen, kind of, too. It's manufactured animosity, I think I would say, to an extent. They don't even know they don't actually know what they're upset about.
Yeah, no, it's planned, isn't it? It's all planned, if say like one team's playing the other, team A's playing team B, they contact each other. What are you going to be?
Well, I've heard of that. I watched some good, interesting stuff on YouTube during the pandemic. I had nothing but time to explore curiosities, and I kind of got into a little bit of the hooli, where it's like a sanctioned event. Like, hey, we're going to meet in this field. You bring your best 20, we'll bring our best 20. And that, at least, as ridiculous as I find it, at least that is somewhat okay, because we've got parameters established here. It's not a free-for-all. And I almost, when you say that the idea of that, the 5,000 Chelsea and the 60,000 Liverpool, not to bring up rough subjects here, but it almost reminds me of the war that made America between us, my side and your side, is that we don't know who fired the first shot. It was just somebody fired the first shot and we got to go now.
Yeah, it was something like that. it's just crazy. And it's just something. It's just maybe the smallest little thing that sparks the incident. But once it happens, even with overwhelming odds like there were, 5,000 people, if they start to riot, that's a lot of people to be controlled.
Exactly.
I mean, there were no trouble. I've got to say that. Not that I know of, there were no trouble. They were pretty well behaved. And
they've gotten pretty good. I've seen with the advance in technology, and especially your guys are in one of the most like surveyed parts of like if I'm not mistaken, isn't England one of the most like surveillance societies as far as everything's on camera everywhere? Yeah. So with facial recognition, they're very good at stopping. Like I saw one thing where it was a guy who was a former, and you guys call them firms over there, not gangs necessarily, correct? Firm, so the firms, like a guy was kind of actually going to do, like he was talking about his former life as being a hooligan, more or less. And he was within a certain distance from the stadium, and he was just there to talk with a filmmaker. And they're like, "Hey, man, you can't be this close here." Like they spotted him. It's like if a known cheater at a casino is within a certain distance, they're like, "Hey, you got to get away."
Yeah,
we don't even take a chance of this one. Doesn't matter if you're fucking helping an old lady cross the streets. Get away.
Yeah, sorry, I was laughing at that casino a bit.
I find every way. I'm a gambler. That's the big thing I have on the show here. It's the one, but I don't even look at it as necessarily as much of a vice as I do look at it as a side project. I mean, it's not exactly the most glamorous lifestyle, but I do find ways to turn a profit. It's not for everybody. It's probably something I shouldn't do. If I ideally had more money, I would not feel the need to do this, but it's kind of a nice little passive way of, I like to have a little bit of relaxation in the world, but even then, I'm actually even starting to find I get as much satisfaction out of not watching something I have money on versus I do, because at the end of the day, am I trying to get a feeling? Like I have this little phrase I made up. It's called degeneline. And degeneline is when you combine degenerate behavior, gambling, and adrenaline. And it's kind of its own little drug. It's kind of like, it rhymes with heroin, but it's something that when you get that juice running through your veins, it's, that's what people are looking for. And yes, I do enjoy the degeneline high, but really what I enjoy is if I'm collecting money. Because if you're not, it's like you got bad drugs.
Absolutely. So the reason why I had a smile about it was I was in California when I was 21. I'd gone over there me and my friend had gone over there for our birthday, for our 25th years. So I went to Vegas with some friends. We drove up to Vegas.
Vegas in the 70s, you said?
It was around about 72.
That's a way different Vegas than we have out there now, man. That was scary Vegas.
82, sorry, 82.
Oh, 82. Okay, still a little scary.
So we went there and we were in the casino. I got separated from my friends. I got separated from them. There were 5 of us, and I couldn't find them anywhere. I was wandering around the casino looking for them, and it was like I was getting, what's happened? I'm a stranger in a strange land. And then I spotted them over the other side of the casino. So I just walked straight line to them. Straight between the blackjack tables, straight between them, not round them. Next thing I know, it was like some gorilla had got hold of me. It's like one of those, you turn back, yes, hello. Hey, sir, you walk between the tables. Sorry? You walk between the tables. I've no idea what you're on about. Don't lie me. So anyway, I got a severe ticking off, and there was like 2 of them, and I thought, I'm out of here now. So it was an interesting experience to be accosted by one of those blokes that's about 14 times the size of you.
You use bloke. I love it. I officially am talking to an Englishman if I hear bloke.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's also too. So, I mean, America, now, it was such a small area. I mean, are towns that much different? I mean, I know you said there's different dialects. Like you're in Oldham, England, and you said that, you don't speak English, you speak Oldham. Like, are towns that much different as far as culturally as well? And like, the foods and everything? Like, I travel around the country here, and it's like, we're literally a bunch of different fucking countries, I would say almost.
That's it. I mean, you're the United States, aren't you? I mean, there's a lot of individual states all been united, and, literally, the accent will change from where I live now in Oldham. I could go one way into Manchester, which is 7 miles, and it's a totally different accent. I could go 7 miles the other way, which is Yorkshire.
Well, I'm in New York right now, man, so that might be my neck of the woods.
No, I'm in Lancashire. If you know the history of Lancashire and Yorkshire, we don't get on. there was a big battle fought, which was an actual civil war for the throne of England between the House of Lancaster and the House of York. So the Red Rose, which is Lancashire, and the White Rose, which is Yorkshire. So, it's only friendly rivalry now. Obviously, we still don't go out with halberds and swords and cut each other down and things like that. We've sort of like got past that stage.
Well, and that's what it kind of brings it almost like it hits a point that I made earlier there, is that like, you understand what the history behind that whole situation is. The younger kids though, do they know? Are they still,
I don't think,
are they still unruly with each other, but they don't even know why?
Yeah, I don't think it's as much now. I don't think we teach British history so much now in schools and Second World War history and all that stuff. Stuff really that shouldn't be forgotten because it is part of our makeup, our culture.
But they don't want to teach a lot of the stuff that happened over here anymore. I'll tell you that much.
No. But it's necessary because, rightly or wrongly, it's what I'm saying with us. Rightly or wrongly, it's what's defined the country, and it's not about what went on in the past. We should be looking at the past to learn from it. We can't move on until we know mistakes, until we can see the mistakes we made, and then when we change them, that's when things change. Not by forcing people to change. You can't force people to change. You can't say you should be doing this and you should be doing that, and we should meet in the middle and be happy. No, I'll get into this slightly. I don't want to go too deep into it. When I was a kid growing up in the 60s, 11-year-old, so it would have been just coming into the 70s, early 70s. I moved from the junior school, one place we moved house, we moved to a junior school, secondary school, or what you call your high school. And it was primarily, all them years ago, it was primarily white, right? There was one guy in there. He was dark.
Come in.
And I tell you what, he was brilliant. He was one of my best mates. There was never any conflict with him. I used to go to his house for dinner, and he'd come to our house for dinner. And as an athlete, he was a fantastic athlete. He was just brilliant. And there was no such thing as racism. There was none. The sooner we get isms out of the world, in my opinion, the better.
Especially when we mislabel them. Yeah,
I mean, people just bringing isms in everywhere. If they don't like something, they call it an ism. Well, I'm a Liverpool supporter, so traditionally Liverpool and Man United don't get on. So I'm going to bring the Man Unitedism in. Or you being Man Unitedist? Or you being Liverpoolist? It's crazy. Let's just all. The fact is, people will integrate and people will get on if you leave people to integrate and get on without all the stupid politics in the background. Get rid of all that and just let people get on with each other. My Ju-Jitsu club where I teach there, I've probably got about 60 people on the books, and I've probably about 30 or 40 training regular. The majority of it is Muslim. So what?
And from what I understand, that's kind of a contentious situation over there, but it's kind of like I'm sorry to cut you with this one, but I was thinking, you ever see the movie Rocky? You ever seen the Rocky movies around here? Rocky IV, one of the greatest speeches ever. If I can change, you can change, we can change.
Yeah, it's better than 20 million people killing each other.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I like how you say, the parts of the history thing, because it's like, that's part of the thing of this show is that, hey, there's a lot of things in my past that maybe would be things that would be better unspoken to other people. But if I just told you about all the good things that have happened in my life, you would never understand who I truly am. And I think that you can put that's on a micro level, and if we put it on the macro, is that like, hey, some bad things have happened, but we've overcome. Let's be proud of the progress that we've made to get to where we are.
But it's not the good things that define you, is it?
It's all of them.
It's every single thing. It's not the bad things that define you. You are a product of everything you've done.
You're a collection of your experiences.
Everything you've not done as well. You're a product of them as well. The things you haven't done will not influence you to be what you could have been.
It sounds so simple, yet it's so complicated for some. Or in many cases, as I've been going on with the changes that I've made in my life or something like that, it's that everything was so difficult until I decided, no, it's actually kind of easy. You know what I mean? That was another thing I got on with you that I really want to hit on, which is a big thing, especially over on this side. I'm sure it is over there, but you help with people with corporate anxiety. And I believe that that's something that everybody that has an employer feels.
I got into that as I started coming out of my reverie, shall we say, over the last few years that I was suffering the PTSD. And that was a story in itself, because that suddenly happened. I went to the doctors at the start of this year, around about January the 15th. And I went into the doctor's surgery, and there was a female doctor, there was a female assistant trainee doctor, and there was my wife, Rachel. And we walked in there and we said, "Hi, how is everybody? Everybody all right?" I walked in like me, and then the doctor said to me, "So how are you feeling today?" That was it. Bomb went up, balloon went up, boom. I just fell apart. Literally just fell apart. Everything, just literally everything, this last 6 years, 7 years, everything just came pouring out in the doctor's surgery. I was sat on the floor, best described in the pool of tears and snow, on the floor, just bidding like a baby. And I don't know how long I've been there. I remember waking up, I had my arm was hurting and my finger was hurting, and they put a heart rate monitor on my finger, and they'd taken my blood pressure when I started coming round. I just literally fell apart. That was a blessing in disguise, because that was the start of my recovery. That was when I came out of it. That was how I came out of it. That was a sharp shock that got me out of it. So then I decided that I need to do something here. I need to rebuild my life. So that's when I started experimenting online. Consequently, I found my mentor who's taken me down this path. He's done a lot of work with me. He had more faith in my ability than I had in myself initially. Now, as I start coming out of it, I know there are people in the world in similar situations to me at that stage. I know that people have got this corporate anxiety. I had corporate anxiety, but I had no corporation anymore. That's all gone. I've destroyed it. But there are people who are struggling. I'm terrified of where my life is going at the moment, because with the situation I created financially, with the mortgage, with all the bills they need paying. So people are struggling they're in this job, and they're there and they're thinking, why am I doing this? I've done this for 40 years now. And where am I in life? What have I achieved in life? Where am I going? How can I do another 10 years of this? How can I get up every single morning and go to work for 8, 9, 10 hours a day? Just to be put on the scrap heap of life when I'm 65, because I don't want to retire. What's going to happen to all the skills? Where do the skills will just be taken out of the skill pool? What's the point of that? What are they going to do with them? Have they got enough money to get them through in life? And that's now what I want to do. And I also, people with mental health, just one thing I want to say. All you blokes out there that think you're dead tough and you're struggling with your head, with your cabbage, get it right. Just talk to somebody. Just say to somebody, "Hey, Ryan, can I talk to you, buddy? Can we meet up for a coffee? I need to talk to somebody." Just do that. Don't do what I did, because I'm a tough guy, man. I'm an alpha male, yeah. I didn't do that. I didn't talk to somebody. That's why I nearly killed myself, because it just built up and built up and built up and built up until eventually my head exploded.
It really reminds me of my story. And I mean, I'm getting this, and I guess I would say that the one thing I have that's nice is, I mean, again, and I want to say like that, but it's good for me that happened for me at like 36, 37 years old. Now, like one of the things, and especially where, you know, like you probably had the added pressure of anxiety, is that I'm single. I have no kids. It's only me. And I would almost say that you probably would not have as much of that feeling if you didn't have the pressure to take care of those that, you know, of your family, you know, like if it was, as I always look at, like, I sit there in these meetings or whatever like that, and I hate that they fucking say this all the time. And you can swear on the show, by the way, too. I just haven't been, you know, we've been nice, but they'll always say, "We just want you to be able to do this, to be able to provide the life for your families and stuff." And I'm like, you are so fucking full of shit. You don't give a flying fuck about my family. It's just that thing that they can use against me, kind of thing, almost, where it's like they're able to get more out of you because they make you feel bad if you're not doing your best, because you're not doing the best for your family. which you may or may not be. But the whole thing is that maybe you being at work 50 hours a week, being a freaking slave to the grind is not the best thing for your family. Sure, you got money and they got a place to live and they got food to eat, but they don't have a fucking actual fucking family member anymore. Like I know that my relationships at work have made it that it's almost unbearable to be around me at sometimes with my friends and family. But because I get fucking my name on a leaderboard or they put me in an email every now and again that makes me feel fucking special, it's fucking bullshit or like that. You know, we have the expression here is that, you know, you're fucking, if you die tomorrow, your fucking job will be posted before your obituary is.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's same here.
So I kind of now go on this one where I'm a little bit different now. There is the idea, though, I do say, like you did mention that, though, about how your mentor believes more about you than they do to me. That's really one of the biggest reasons I do perform is, you know, at my current or any job I've had is that people do see more potential in me than I see in myself. I'm just looking at this as a means to an end a little bit where they kind of like, I think you could be capable of so much more. But I also am like, more is not going to be me. Like people will validate themselves by their job title sometimes, or people validate themselves by the bottom line on their paycheck. And don't get me wrong, those are all important things a little bit, but that's not going to be who fucking defines you as a man. I mean, do you want to have, you know, at your funeral, do you want to say, oh, he was, you know, the best damn fucking furniture salesman in the ever saw? Oh my God, the way that he could turn a love seat into a sofa. You never saw anything like it before. No, I don't want that to be what defines me. But unfortunately, that's where I spend the majority of my life right now. I'm a furniture sales guy, but I've always been a sales guy and stuff. And it's like, I like this whole thing of that. I look at this as that I do this job. I went to 14 different Major League Baseball parks this summer. I look at this as like going, wow, this guy does this. And I probably make the least amount of money out of the people I work with at this point because I have actually put what's called, people have a life-work balance. I have a work-life balance where, and I always kind of look at it as that because having a little bit less responsibility, I've never worried about my ability to survive in this world, you know, because I joke around that if I was you put me in an 8x8 room, which I almost ended up in probably a couple times anyways, I don't need all of these things. Yes, these things are nice, but as long as I've got my integrity and I've got my health, I'll figure out a way to make this thing work is kind of the way I look at it. And maybe it's not going to be the life that people, you know, people will pass off the life they want on the life that you want. Like, you know, like I remember a friend coming over to my house and saying, oh, why don't you get a bigger TV? And I'm like, I got a TV that works. I can see. What do I care about how much bigger it is? You know, like and that's, I mean, I'm not a religious guy necessarily, but I do find lessons in that, like the Bible is that, you know, don't covet thy neighbor's wives, don't covet thy neighbor's goods, is that I don't care about what the guy across the street has. I just care about what I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But too many people get into the keeping up with the Joneses, if that's an expression you've ever heard of. And I believe that's the stem of their anxiety a little bit, where, I mean, the idea that's, you know, I feel like that sometimes that people will make threats that they really have no meaning. I'm pretty good at calling someone's bluff or whatever like that, where it's like, you know, I use this as even an instance when I've dealt with people in law enforcement or people at work. If somebody tells me they could fire me or they could arrest me, that means that they can't, because if they could, they would.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, maybe there is maybe I am a charming enough guy that they just don't want to, but that's me getting a fucking ego about myself. I'm not that special. Like, really, that's the whole thing is I've always kind of, and like, you know, I do have high esteem for myself in some senses, but I think that everybody needs to realize you are special. You're just not that special. There's a fine line. You need to balance on that one.
Absolutely. And you're totally right. And I mean, people spend their entire lives living by the committee of them, the little voice in the head, the neighbors, their in-laws, the brothers, the sisters, the siblings, and people saying you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, you should have this, you should have that, or by this stage this should be done and this should be done. No, life don't work like that. My life is my life and your life is your life. We live our lives how we want, as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical what we're doing. What's it matter whether you've got a small TV or your car's 20-year-old? It doesn't matter. It wasn't even
a small TV. It just wasn't a huge one.
Sorry.
I didn't need to put a magnifying glass. I know, but but that's the point of it. It looks small to you, but I'm like, well, in the grand scheme of things, 42 inches is kind of big, you know, like.
Well, as long as we're talking about TVs now.
Yeah, well, 42 inches in other places. I mean, now you're scaring the village away.
Absolutely.
But there'll be one girl that'll be dumb enough to want to do it.
Oh, it always is. It always is. there's to me, it's how you live your life is entirely up to you. But I also think that people want to change but don't know how to. They've got so stuck in a rut, because I was stuck. I was probably in the bottom of the Grand Canyon in the wagon rut, right at the bottom. I didn't think we could go much further down.
Well, the thing is that I had through my own experiences, and I can see it, and it happens with a lot of people, of that's part of getting better is admitting that you were wrong. And a lot of people don't like to admit that there are people that will go the rest of their lives doing things the wrong way because they don't want to acknowledge that they've been living the wrong way.
Yeah.
And my father was one of them, unfortunately. Like I remember, and it could be something as trivial as a sports fact. I remember one time he was telling me a stat, because we've got the one of the new school, old school things is that my father was kind of like the almanac. Everyone referred to him for something or whatever, where like, if people were, hey, who had more home runs in baseball or something like that? Oh, let's ask Schofield, and then he would have the answer and stuff. But there was one particular stat, I don't remember the specifics, but he was telling me, oh, this guy had such and such. And I just wanted to look it up to see who else was on the list. And I saw that my dad was wrong. And I remember telling him that he was wrong. And he started getting like almost as upset at me as he's ever gotten in his entire life. And this was over a fucking sports thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I just realized that he doesn't want to admit that he's been wrong for the last fucking 30 years. Like,
yeah, it's I think it's human nature to not admit you're wrong. I mean, you look at, just take driving, for example. You're driving down the road and somebody will do something stupid. They might pull out in front of you. Now, since I was 20-year-old, I've done about 30,000, 35, 40,000 miles a year. I've been a field service engineer.
That's a lot, even for a small country. That's a lot. This is way more than I do, and I'm in a big plot of land.
I've driven to the moon and back, and further. But
literally,
yeah, people make mistakes. I make mistakes, and I make mistakes all the time. I always view it as long as nobody gets hurt, nothing happens. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they have to stop, you have to stop. But it's no need to get down deep in this, calling each other names, all this yabba, 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 fighting this, fighting that, silly gesticulations that people make. What is the point? It's not going to improve your day, is it? Someone pulled out to me one time, I hit the anchors. He didn't do it deliberately. And he was there looking at me, and I just put me out, I said, you okay? And he just went, yeah. I said, fine, carry on. And he was like, he must have been driving down the road thinking, what just happened? Why didn't that guy get out and punch me? Because I didn't want to. What would have that achieved? He's gone away now, he's forgot the incident, he's happy. When it happens the other way around and then people start effing and jeffing at each other out the window, making petty gesticulations, you're on edge then, aren't you? You're on edge for ages after, for hours after. You wind up. What's the point?
I had a similar situation that happened with me, I guess I would say. So I was actually physically hit by a car one time. I was run over at work one time. Okay. Right. I was working at a grocery store and I was helping them. It was no good deed goes unpunished is an expression I hate exists, but unfortunately it is true. And they asked me, they were like, hey, like Ryan, it was about to start raining. They were like, would you help the guy get in all the carts and then you can take off as soon as you're done? I'm like, fucking perfect. Last load of it. I'm doing all this. All of a sudden, the invisible man tackles me, and I fucking get all this. I mean, it all one of those things, just like your incident. Everything happened so fast. This elderly woman, I think she was like 73 years old or so, had run over me and then actually drove back over me. And then it wasn't until somebody yelled at her to stop. She came to a complete stop on my leg. I don't know how I didn't break a fucking bone. I snapped a ligament in my knee. But after this came about, it turned into this whole thing of that, like, obviously I needed to, get some restitution out of this one. I was out of work for an entire summer and I maybe, all of this, but once lawyers got involved, I'm like, I'm not trying to get the biggest price tag. I'm trying to get, some fair value out of what I lost out on. And my biggest thing is I don't want this lady to drive again. That's my biggest thing about this. If she was incapable of realizing that she was running over another human being, maybe that's the only thing that would be worth more money to me, because guess what? It wouldn't happen again. Like maybe, that's one less thing to worry about, I guess.
Something needed questioning there, didn't it?
And I mean, yeah, but I ended up getting a couple $1,000 out, which was, probably the worst thing that happened to me, actually, because I just turned 21 years old, which meant I could legally drink over here. So I had a really, really fun semester at college, or usually we would call it university over there. I think I was everybody's best friend.
That's definitely beer o'clock, that.
Oh, it was the beer, it was the whiskey, it was whatever we can get our hands on over here. But no, and I mean, I even look at that right now. I think people they mistake their sources of enjoyment with their sources of entertainment and displeasure. Like there's a lot of things that are very, very stressful behaviors that people think they are enjoying.
Yeah, you're right though. I mean, people actually enjoy. I think they do.
I'll use the classic one. You play golf over there.
I don't, but people do.
But so, like, people, I swear to God, that people that get upset on the golf course are like the fucking, I mean, aside from actual criminals, are some of the worst human beings on the face of the earth, where it's like, look, you're in the middle of fucking nature right now, hitting a fucking ball at a fucking hole. And just because you suck at it, you have to fucking make everybody else's life around you miserable. Like, cause I know it. I was that guy before. And I'm like, well, like I have to admit that I was an asshole, which is not easy to do, but I'm like, oh, fuck, it's like, like, why would I do that? Like when it's like, there's some guy right now that's got it way worse than me, that if he was playing a fucking shitty round of golf, he would call that the best day of his life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the perspective thing. I mean, like, even like, and we have a real problem with that over in America. And I'm not sure how things work over there, but it's like some of the worst people. I mean, so people create their own misery to an extent, but it's like, listen, the worst person off over here still has it better than like 99% of the people that ever walked on this earth.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people, seriously, that
I haven't had to chase a squirrel around so my family could eat ever, like.
Yeah, with you on that one. Yeah, it's just that people just have this inability to be able to admit they're wrong. But I mean, I do to a certain extent. One thing I've known, though, I've learned, is that my recovery has been better because I've managed to sit back, take responsibility for my actions, take responsibility for what happened to me. Yeah, it wasn't. You could argue it wasn't my fault, but what was my fault was I didn't tell anybody. That was my fault. I didn't tell anybody what I was going through. I put on this facade that, yeah, I'm okay, when I weren't. I wasn't okay. I was like a volcano inside. If I had been more responsible and just sought help at that stage, everything would have been a lot better. But I didn't, and I'm responsible for that. Nobody else. But
so I had something like that with me. I mean, and I would say this kind of attributes with my alcoholism. Are you familiar with the movie American Psycho with Christian Bale?
I've heard it. I've not seen it, but.
So I won't on it. It's a great piece of work. I'm not sure how you feel about the Welsh or not. I'm not sure. I know that it's a little bit contentious with you guys over there sometimes, but
I don't mind them. It's just a small country in England. It's a small town in Wales.
But so one of the points of this thing is that the guy is essentially living a double life or whatever like that. So I had the whole thing of that. I was able to put on this good mask of that, okay, people knew I partied, I was never, ever, high to do that, but no one knew the extent of it. It's like when I eventually told people that I, how bad I was, people that thought I had a drinking problem didn't know that fucking I was actually drunker than they thought I was, like, it's like, hey, you think I drink a lot when I get to the bar, you should have seen how much I had before I got here kind of thing. Or the fact that I would bounce from bar to bar to kind of be like, okay, not one individual place is gonna be like, I think that guy's got a real problem. I mean, they would be like, he does, but like not to the extent they knew about, or maybe they did. But when I actually came clean on some things, because that was what it is I was storing all of this kind of grief and whatnot and just all of this stuff. And I just remember having this like 3 or 4 hour conversation with, she's not my stepmother, but she was a woman that my father, was his life partner towards the end of his life.
Yeah.
And I just remember I nonstop was talking. And I mean, I think that she she had PTSD from just the conversation of hearing that, like, oh my God, this guy's been dealing with this and all of these collections of things like that. And then finally for me, when I actually had to do the thing where I had to check myself into a detox center, nothing worse than having your mother with you in the fucking emergency room when they're telling you your son's got a 0.29 BAC and whatnot. And I'm telling her all of the events that have led up to this, which are not things, but if I had never told anybody and I just said, hey, I had a rough weekend type thing, that would have been, it would have never, ever helped me get better. I had to tell her some very unfortunate things about her son, some stuff you probably wish that she never heard, but it was like me getting that cleansing of the palate helped me do that thing. And then even when I was telling people, you know, like I remember, because part of our reason I do the detox thing, I'll be honest, was because I was worried I was going to lose my job. We're back to the corporate anxiety thing of that, you know, I'm not even was worried about myself, Ryan Schofield. I'm worried about the guy who was UN 10790 or 1076, which is, you know, my number in the company kind of thing. And I remember telling my one boss, and he was like, you know, we didn't realize that you had such a problem or anything like that. I'm like, it's not like I wasn't crying this out there like that. It's just that it was easier for you to see what you wanted to see out of me. And that's kind of one of the themes of that movie, American Psycho, is that it's just easier for people to see what they want to see out of you. Mark, as I see, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I was actually thinking about when, you know, knowing a little bit about your background from the brief time that we talked, I was like, oh, you're probably one of those guys that I would love to see a video of online where I'm not even kidding. This is an exact thing I said. I'm going, you're one of those ones that a group of young kids goes to fuck with, and then they find out that they're fucking with the wrong guy. And then 5 minutes into this conversation, I find out that is something that actually happened to you and was actually the worst event of your life. So like, it's kind of like, you know, I wanted to see you as one way as, oh, this guy's a fucking alpha. You don't want to, and then I got, okay, but you know, big guys cry too, I guess, you know, like.
Yeah, they do, but usually in silence and in solitude, and that's the problem.
And I guess I would say the analogy we have to do is that, you know, you have to almost you almost lose yourself. You said you cried into a million tears and you found yourself in a puddle. You almost have to become that puddle so that you can remold yourself into the person that you need to be. You have to break it all the way down, which is very, very difficult because, again, you have to admit to a lot of wrongs and all of these things. But it's like, I need to go from this solid to just a fucking puddle that we're going to put back into the mold we want to, and then work on it to harden it.
Yeah, I described it as you have to turn yourself inside out.
Yeah, that sounds painful because it is.
It is. It's very, very painful. I remember walking out of the doctor's office. I was just so low. I was almost a broken person. It was like I was so embarrassed. I was so guilty. I felt, you know, like you said, an alpha male. You know, 6 foot tall, ex-rugby player, Ju-Jitsu black belt, big guy. But you know, I've never been a nasty person apart from when I was on the pitch. But all of a sudden, I was just a shell. I was just a broken man. I was nothing. I was worthless. I had no value. I had no value to the world at that time. I wasn't contributing anything. I was just taking up oxygen, basically. I was an oxygen waster.
Well, that's like a lot of I can relate with this one of that. I'm not sure again if you follow a lot of hockey. I know that's not really a big sport over there.
Oh, I like hockey. The problem is hockey, ice hockey. It spoils the fights, doesn't it?
Well, they're trying to take that out of the game now, and that's where I was going with this. Is that there's a role on the team that's just known as the enforcer.
The enforcer, yeah.
And those guys are some of the ones that they have the most exactly what you just hit on right there. That their role in this universe is to not their real role in the universe, but the perceived role of them is that you're the one that fucking has to go out there and do the dirty stuff or like that. It's like, hey, you're going to have to fight this guy tonight. It has nothing to do with the final score. You have to fight this guy though. And it's kind of like, you know, some of those guys have gone into some deep downward spirals and have, you know, when they come out with it and people do look and go, oh, I never knew he was such a softie. You know, like we just had this whole thing over here that Mark, this is one of the worst things ever. It's not one of the worst things ever. This is actually very, very insignificant. But I recorded an episode of a show that my microphone wasn't recorded. I still posted the video onto my YouTube channel because you can see how passionate I was about something that you never hear a word of. But they were talking about, there was a football player over here. And the guy fucking makes millions of dollars and all this stuff. But he was talking about how all of the hatred he was getting from fucking fantasy football players, the fucking biggest fucking bottom feeders of the fucking sports world, as far as I'm concerned, are these people that were messaging him, how much they hated him, this, that, the other thing, too. It sent him into a spiral of situations. And it wasn't until he talked to a nephew of his who had a leukemia that he actually got out of this rut of himself. And when they posted this article about this, I'm looking at the comments section, or someone's like, oh, cry me a river with your millions of dollars. Or, hey, he's getting me 15 points a week now, so I don't care. And I'm like, that's a fucking human being. Like, are you serious? Like,
it doesn't matter how big, tough, you know, even the toughest guys can once that mental illness starts, you don't really have any control over it. Once you get something in your head, it just spirals and spirals and spirals out of control. I actually called it the entity that was living in my head. It was like a demon, a being that lived in my head. But that slowly, that just grabbed it, just pulled. It was like an attraction force for negative energy. Anything people said that were negative, not just about me, about themselves, but particularly about me, or about the weather or whatever. It just pulled it all in. It just poured all this negative energy into my head, and it literally just fed off that, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger until it eventually took over my persona. And that's where the demons came from. That's what created the demons. That's what created I could feel them just constantly saying to me, "You're useless. You're useless. You count for nothing. There's no point you being here. Your wife doesn't love you. Your kids don't love you. Why are you doing this? Why are you still here? You might as well just come and join us. Just do what you need to do. You know what you need to do. Just do it."
And that's again, we're really connecting a lot here. So I'm glad you said that you said that it was talking to you. It's really like, if you're around a negative person, like there's the idea that, like, if I always say, if you're around 5 millionaires, there's a good chance you could become the 6th one. If you're around 5 fucking lowlifes, there's a good chance you become a 6th one. You effectively have an inner monologue that if you're in that mind space, you are constantly having a conversation with a negative person. And it's just negativity is just going to breed the negativity. Now, there is irrationally positive people, which that's also a little bit, I mean, were you ever familiar with the comedian George Carlin?
No.
Oh my God. If he was an American treasure. I'm not sure he was, but he talked about with self-esteem, how like it doesn't resolve any criminal, it doesn't make you any less likely to be a criminal. He's like, because it turns out very violent people think very highly of themselves, but there's a dangerous line of that you do have to be humbled a little bit, but you can't, you can't always feel too good about yourself. You can never feel too bad about yourself. There's a fine balance there, because if you start telling yourself you are the greatest, you can also go too far away with that one, is kind of where I'm getting at. But you do need to have some positive encouragements, but not.
Absolutely. It's like the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That is all about changing the narrative and getting the positive affirmation in there. Start talking to yourself like you want to be spoken to, not saying, "Oh, I'm a failure, but you can do this. You can be what you want to do. You can achieve what you want to achieve." It's just a matter of change. Once you can change the narrative and the programming, like if you've got a computer and you put a load of bad things into it, you badly program it, it's not going to work. You put garbage in, you'll get garbage out. If you put good stuff in, you'll get good stuff out. And the little voice in your head, the little man inside your head, or woman, or whatever.
I think I've realized. Sorry, I think I've realized actually what it is now, though, too, is that you have to tell yourself you're great. But if you're the only one telling yourself that you're great, then that might be a problem.
It might be.
If you're the only one, because there's an expression that I follow. There's a guy around here. He says it was a Walter Payton quote. He was the all-time leading rusher in the NFL for a while, until Emmitt Smith broke his record. And his quote was that if you're good at something, you tell people about it. If you're great at something, they tell you about it.
Yeah.
So it's, you do need to have it, because you need to put yourself out. You need to believe that you're good. But if you're not getting any, you do need a little bit of verification from somebody else. If you're the only one telling yourself you're good at something, eventually that's kind of a slippery slope. I think you do need to get somebody else needs to recognize that. It's kind of the whole, if a tree falls in the woods thing, if there's no way there to make a sound. Well, if you're good at something, but nobody else knows about it, then maybe you're not that good at it. Yeah.
It's like it's very similar to the saying that if there's 4 blokes camping in the woods and there's no women around, are they still wrong?
I love that you guys still have. So you guys haven't gone. I mean, I don't say this, but like we have a big problem here with political correctness over here.
Oh, don't even go there.
You seem like, I mean, are you a one-off in that society over there, or is it pretty common to be able to make a joke? I guess I would say, like I loved. The one export we got from you that I loved is Ricky Gervais, when he just fucking absolutely obliterated fucking all of Hollywood. Like,
he doesn't give a toss about anything, does he?
There's just nothing better than that. Like I had one of my favorite guests I've had on the show. You're up there too. Not that I've had a ton of them, but you're definitely a great conversation. I look forward to staying in touch with you. I'll say that much. But this one guy I worked with was talking about, or he was saying, if you're on a first date, I recommend you just shit your pants, because after that, everything's easy. And that's the ultimate I don't give a fuck move if you just shit your pants. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. No, Ricky Gervais is political correctness. I think to a certain extent, political correctness is morally incorrect, because
it's a fancy way of saying fascism.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way of looking at it. That's a brilliant way of looking at it. There are certain boundaries. We're losing the ability to laugh. If you can't laugh at yourself, how can you laugh at? Everything now you see, all these comedians in the 70s and 80s, they did stand-up comedians. It was all about it was the right people, the Irish, whatever. It didn't matter. Did anybody actually get offended over all that? Did the Irish get offended? They were constantly in the limelight. Well, and I'm not knocking the Irish, because, like I said, my mum was.
Yeah, no, it's all good fun. For all I know, I'm English. For all I know, I'm Irish. Who knows? It's a weird, it's a weird world over there. Somebody screwed up across a border.
It's like the narrative that's coming out of everywhere now, the media, all the media. It's just all wrong. It's not a true reflection of life, in my opinion. You can't have a laugh, we can't have a joke, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say the other. We have one of the guys who comes, his daughter trained with us at the Ju-Jitsu club. He's from Pakistan. He's a great guy. He owns a jewelry store in the local, just a couple of miles from us. His daughter's a junior black belt. She started from zero and she got a black belt. Now she's training. Now she went up to working up to a Shodan. And I tell you what, you can have such a laugh with him. You can, and he's the worst one for it. He's the worst one for the racist jokes.
I love that, and I love that that's always the case of that. People can laugh at themselves. And that's really, when I was growing up, there was a camaraderie of that. It's like, hey, if you play on a football team, an NFL, like a American football team, you got I played high school for a little bit, and you got fucking 70 guys in a locker room that are all from all different walks of life. And that's kind of the way that keeps us all humbled a little bit, is that, we're going to make nothing over the top, but we're going to poke fun at certain things about each other. And that's what's going to keep us together. It's like with your brothers, you fight with them and you laugh with them at the same time,
Yeah. When I played rugby, we used to have an award called the Dick of the Day. And that was you played the game, and this person did the most stupid thing during the match. You knocked on just as you're about to score. You dropped the ball just as you're about to score, or you missed a tackle or whatever. They was like, you're the dick of the day. But that meant you had to get the first round in.
Yeah. We have that here. If I play slow pitch softball. If you strike out in slow pitch softball, you're buying drinks. That's just and honestly, I think more people have struck out because of the pressure of that than actually how easy it is to hit a ball pitched at 15 miles an hour. Or I'm not sure what that converts to over in kilometers per hour or not. But
I think I know miles an hour is perfect for me. I think I'd be buying a few drinks if it were me.
So as I would kind of say that I grew up under an expression that was sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt. And then all of a sudden they started going, no, names do. The thing is that if they do hurt you, you need to let the person know that they do. But you can't be like, I have a buddy he's a fucking just known antagonizer. And then one day I just said, you know what? I'm not gonna let him get a rise out of me. And then you know what happened? He stopped fucking making fun of me because it wasn't fun for him anymore. Now that might be a little bit revealing of that guy's character, but I'm like, yo, dude, if you just fucking ignore him, he fucking goes away.
Yeah. But here's a question for you. Do you give offense or do people take it?
That's a good question. Do I give it?
No. Does somebody give offense? Does not particularly you. Does somebody give offense or does somebody take it? In other words, if I just said something off the wall and you took offense, for example, have I given you the offense or have you taken the offense?
I get now I get what you're saying with that one. No, yeah, I'm taking it. I mean, it's like ultimately words are just words, and it's how you interpret them that give them the meaning of that. And that's why I'm on this new thing about how I hate people that, like, I'm from this generation I'm trying to break out of, where everyone wants to communicate via a text message where there's no tone to those words. You choose the tone in which you read them. And that can cause for some horrible misinterpretations.
Yeah. But there's also like people send by text because they see it as a victimless crime. They're not face to face with someone. People have sent me messages on Facebook and text that they wouldn't even dream of saying to my face.
Oh, 100%. I know that's like the comment, they're bottom feeders. I have this now luckily, because my friends, the people that I grew up with, would say some stuff like that to my face. I always say I have to thank you guys because you humbled me and you've conditioned me for the rest of the world, because some fucking Joe Blow in his fucking basement making a fucking comment on my video. I'm like, dude, my best friends say worse shit than that to me. Okay. But at least I know that they have theirs is coming from a place of humor a little bit. Yours is just out of, you're projecting your own misery onto me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just don't understand. I've said that with an example of this is this. It was my wife's 50th birthday a couple of years ago. Oh no, I've told her age. Don't let her see the video.
So that's up to you, bro. I mean, if she's a fan of the Scho-Zone, then I'm really blowing up over there. So
we had a party for a local pub, and some of her mates came. And one of her mates who's been a girl I just went to school with. She's been one of these people, an eternal student, should we say. She's been to college and she's been to university, and she left school and she went to, and then 40 years later, she decided to get a job. 30 years later, she got her first job as a social worker. So we're talking about this at the time, and we just had Mason, our grandson, who was about 12 months old or something like that. So we're just talking. I said, "Oh, it's great." She said, "How's life as a grandpa then?" I said, "It's fantastic. It's brilliant." I said, "Because I've discovered an old bylaw. I've done some research, and this old bylaw in Britain, which basically says that as long as I'm with Mason, I can't get in trouble. Meaning, if we draw on the walls together, we can't get in trouble for it because it's Grandpa's rights. If we make a mess in the living room, we don't have to tidy it up because we can't get in trouble because it's Grandpa's rights. Because he's got your grandkids, that's what you can get away with."
Oh yeah, grandparents, they let you do anything. It's amazing. I love them.
What I mean? It means that no matter what I did, I couldn't get in trouble if we dug a big hole in the garden. Well, we can't get in trouble for that. And that's what it was meant. So she said, social worker, she says, "Oh, I'm a bit disturbed about this now." "What do you mean?" "Well, you said something like that you can't get in trouble for what you do to him." "What?" "No, well, I don't know how I deal with this now after what you just told me." So what are you implying? Are you implying that I'm a kiddie fiddler? Is that what you're implying? So that's what you read into my statement, that we can't get in trouble, and you've read that into it. And you're a social worker. I think you need to go and have a word and review your books, because everybody else sees the funny side of that it's just a bit of fun. We can spray tomato sauce on the windows. We can draw on the walls. But you see it as a totally different thing. I said, you really, really need to have a word.
The fact their head went to that place so quickly.
Yeah, it was quite disturbing, really. It was, and I just said, I tell you what, I really don't want to talk to you anymore. Do what you need to do. If that's what you think, you've known me since I've been married to Rach. In fact, she was supposed to be Rachel's maid of honor, but she didn't turn up.
Sorry.
And that is just a classic example of an innocent statement, a bit of fun being totally taken totally out of context because someone couldn't process it in the right way it was meant, and all of a sudden it became an incident. Who caused that incident? Was it me or was it her? Because it
was 100% her, because this sounds like you didn't know that person very well, did you?
I knew her fairly well. I didn't know as well as Rachel knew her, but she wasn't just a random woman I was talking to in the pub. It was someone Rachel had gone to school with, and someone who was Rachel's best mate grew up as a teenager.
Okay, because I was trying to think of that. It's like, does somebody just the perception is reality in the eye of the consumer. So it's like something that, you know, that they've always, which is kind of weird. I guess I would say that they wouldn't just get that out of one statement from you, because, you know, actions speak louder than words is something I would say. So just because somebody has one slip up, all of a sudden you're now going to assume that worst of them. That person has had something against you, I think, for a while.
Yeah, I think she did. Yeah, because I basically told her a couple of years before that it's about time she stopped being a student at 45-year-old and went out and got a job. And
there it is. There's always something else.
Enough for the likes of me and my wife.
That's because, I mean, I've struggled with this one where I've had some misunderstandings, again, with jokes and people, you know, like, I remember two things. One, I had a girlfriend that I was like, hey, you know, like, actions speak louder than words. And then she was like, yeah, but the action of you using those words. And I was like, all right, we're going down a fucking, you know, like eventually we're fucking all back to the start of the universe on that argument, you know, kind of thing. Yeah. But the other one is that there are some times of that, you know, again, we did talk about some personal accountability. And now I've gotten that assessment out of you. You have to ask yourself, what did I do that allowed that person to think that about me? But that just sounds like someone that was bitter that you told them the truth that they weren't willing to admit themselves. So they just started looking for any reason to bring you down a little bit, because rather than them trying to lift themselves up, it's easier to bring down Mark.
Of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, so what? You're the one with the problems, not me. You're the one that's twisted to think like if you can't think like that. But this is what society is now. People are looking for problems. People are looking for a reason to whinge and complain rather than just accepting things for like they are.
It really is. It's scary.
If you really dive into somebody, you really give them some stick, and you really sort of like, you know, you're aggressive. That's one thing. But just having a laugh and a joke with them, for goodness sake, chill out, folks.
Well, that was like, you know, with this podcast thing I'm doing, this whole thing, it started, you know, we're kind of, you know, you started a journey yourself, it sounded like, in January. I started doing this because this is really, truthfully, you know, whenever they asked me when I was growing up, Ryan, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? I'm like, I just kind of want to be myself. That's always been my answer to that question. So for a little while, I was a stand-up comedian, but dealing with people that couldn't handle my jokes was an issue. Being a salesperson is really just an extension of being a comedian, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I'm really not, like, when you think of a sales guy, you have a certain perception of that person. You know, you're picturing a scumbag or like that. I do the whole thing of, I try to break that wall down of like, hey, listen, I'm just the guy who has a job. What can I do for you? Kind of thing like that. And, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, I do use that to my advantage. I don't always say use my advantage, but I build relationships, and based on that, I make recommendations that, yes, they are somewhat in my best interest, but they're also in the other person. I would not do something that only served me. And it's getting people to understand that, you know, where some people are just going to look at this guy's just doing this to make money. I'm not going to lie. I am trying to make money, but this is why I think it's okay for you. And it's getting those kind of things through. With doing this show is that, you know, I was kind of really struggling along starting doing this. It's only really taken off in the past, like, you're not even taken off, but gotten to where I'm having a gentleman like yourself on here. Is I was thinking of all of the things that would go wrong. And then one time I just decided, you know what, what about all the things that can go right?
Well, that's it. Yeah. I mean, and sales is basically just a conveyance of emotions, isn't it? Somebody
transfer of enthusiasm.
Yeah, somebody comes for you. They've got something you want. They want, you've got something they need. It's just a conversation. How do you break the ice? Not like some people say, oh, you need this, you need that, you need the other. I hate pushy people like that. I like to have a laugh and a joke and get involved in a proper conversation with people, because I think it makes so much sense.
I was in a group one time where they had us reading a book written by a fucking FBI hostage negotiator. And they were talking about how we could apply it to our sales life. And I'm like, if I ever view fucking trying to sell somebody a cell phone the way I fucking view an FBI agent in an interrogation, what am I doing with my life right now? Like, fucking, you know, like, I like to think of it as that, hey, let's go. Like, it's not a game of poker. Cards on the table. What do you want? What are the restrictions that you have of getting it? Let me know what I can do. Let me do some problem solving for you. I'm like, I know that you already know what you want, and I know that I'm just going to collect a commission off of this one, but let me do something for it. I might be able to solve a problem for you that you aren't aware of, or turn you on to something there if you are open with me. If you're open with me, I'll be open with you. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to fight the extra mile for a couple extra dollars when it's like, hey, I can get you in and out real quickly, you know?
So what were you supposed to do then for the FBI? So we're supposed to tie them up, put them in a darkened room, feed them a few glasses of water now and again, and then negotiate the price of the sofa with them or the furniture with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. I'd like to see. I mean, it's like I'd like to see how they would do that. That's always the best too. Is I think that there's other people that can talk about what they do, but actually not do it. There's a lot of doers, some people can just talk a good game, but they can't do it there. They're called college professors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if it's anytime, like I used to hate this one. You ever take it? I had classes where the guy who taught the class wrote the textbook. So when I am asking questions, I'm effectively challenging what his life work is. And it's just like, look, if I'm paying this much money, can you at least tell me why I'm wrong? Because if you're getting upset that I fucking challenged you, that means that I might be onto something.
Yeah, good point. Well, I just think society is, well, I think to a certain extent we're regressing as a race.
As we develop, we're regressing. Like we have too much stuff at our disposal. I mean, at the end of the day, human beings, back to the animal thing, we only have a couple immediate needs.
Yeah.
This is a thing I go on with all the time. When I was a kid, I used to get bored. Do you know how great being bored was? I got so creative when I was bored. I found ways to entertain myself. I would have to fucking try to be bored right now, to the point that we now have it. We're going to consider this a vacation. Like if somebody goes for a hike, it's like, hey, let's just leave the phones in the car and go for a walk. I'm like, that used to sound like the worst idea ever to people. Now it's actually a relief from the fucking hell we've created for ourselves. Like technology was meant to enhance your free time, not to enhance your productivity. The old thing goes on is that the reason that you made a dishwasher, the reason that the dishwasher was invented was so the housewife could take a minute to sit down for herself, not so she could be cooking dinner and doing dishes at the same time. Like,
yeah, you're right. It's crazy. Mark, sorry, I got sidetracked then. Somebody just phoned me.
No, Mark, I was about to, it's maybe a good time to transition. I told you this, which is always a good testament. When I said I aim for 45 to an hour, that's my way that if I'm not having a good time, I can cut things short. You and I probably could talk to the fucking eons. I would be, in a former life, I'm sure that if you and I were rubbing elbows at the pub, we probably would have a few too many P's and Q's. And we probably would just continue to talk. And it's been a fucking absolute pleasure on this end. I hope that you enjoyed yourself as well,
absolutely. Too. It's been brilliant. It's good to have a podcast where it's just free flowing. Talk what say what you like, and just enjoy yourself. I mean, because at the end of the day, that's what we are. We're trying to kind of entertainment, but blokes are the best people in the world for just talking.
Yeah, it's exactly the way it is. And honestly, this little thing is that this is, I mean, we did a little connected thing, but this is a nice, like, talking to people. And again, somebody that I never ever would have come across you unless we just decided, hey, we've got some common interests here. I will go out the rest of my day. I guarantee I won't have as good of a conversation that I had with you today. And if I do, then this is a fucking wonderful day, but it's already off to a great start. Mark, you've been a pleasure here. I got your website scrolling across the bottom here. You're at the Elderpreneur, I see. I'm assuming that's kind of a play on an elder entrepreneur kind of thing. Yeah. You own a couple businesses. You got your Facebook page there, Mark Coope. I'm looking forward to, I'm actually going to add you. You're now going to be a friend of mine. You're not just going to be somebody I just chatted with once. I like to see how things are keeping up. And I'm glad that, I'm glad you overcame that demon that you had to be able to be here on my podcast and to share a story with somebody of that. Hey, I mean, there's probably somebody out there that really, really dreams of fucking punching somebody and knocking their fucking face out or something like that. But now you want to hear the other side of it. Maybe it's not all fucking sunshine and rainbows on that front. And I've learned a lot from your story, and hopefully you've learned from me a little bit too.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. It's an absolutely cracking way to spend an afternoon.
Yeah, so you can say, hey, not all those Americans are as bad as you see on the internet, okay?
I like America. I love America. I've been, like I said, I've been there 6 times, mainly to California. But I just love the concept. I just love, like you said, people aren't as bad. We're made out to be such horrible beings, but people aren't. I think take the politicians and the media out of the world, and the world will get on with itself.
They tell us it's really that they tell you what to think. I mean, like, it's, you don't realize it, but they made us read the book. And when I grew up in high school, they made us read the book 1984. And it seemed so abstract at the time, But now it's like, okay, there's like, if you actually can critically think, which they don't teach you to do anymore, you can go, oh, there's the connections there. Like the 2 + 2 = 5 thing. I see so much of this shit going on right now. And to be honest with you, you said, like we expanded on earlier, I meant to mention this. We're more in control of our own destinies as people want to let on to. Over here right now, there are people that believe their life will get better or worse based on who we elect as the president. Same shit, different pile as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly the same. We just had a new government come in, and that's no different. They're
sociopaths. They're only out for their own agenda. It's all for them to feel in power.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're not out to help anybody. They're only out there to help their own egos, as far as I'm concerned. And that's on a local or a fucking national level, or in some cases, a global level.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, Mark, I think we can end on that note. It's been an absolute treat. And hey, maybe we'll have you back in down the road, see how things are going, because I could probably chat with you about anything and everything. So stay in touch, my friend. We got each other on the Facebook here. So, and if you want to add Mark and follow his journey, or, read about, he's the corporate anxiety thing, I think would really help a lot of people out. And then, I have to be careful with this one because I have coworkers that listen to this one, but you know what? I don't have to be too careful about it because I don't fucking give a shit. If you were going to fire me, you would have done it a long time ago anyways. I'm not hiding who I am.
Brilliant.
All right, Mark. It's probably almost dinner time for you. So go enjoy. It sounds like, you got to get a lovely wife, lovely family. And, maybe one day that's in my cards. But for right now, I'm just as I go, like it's nice to help others, but you got to help yourself before you can help others, I think, too.
Absolutely.
If you're not the best version of yourself, how good are you for anybody else?
Well, that's it. But just to put your mind at ease, I was 40 before I met Rach. I was 40 years old when I met Rach.
I don't turn 40 till next May, so you're there. You're telling me there's a chance.
There's time for you. There's a chance for you. Go for it.
All right. I appreciate you, bud. We'll have you back at some point in time, but stay in touch and have a lovely evening. Okay, bud?
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks a lot.
That was absolutely amazing. I honestly was a little unsure. I mean, when I talked with Mark first, I mean, the accent and everything, and, just was going to, hopefully we had some same commonalities. We're two guys that just met each other. That guy is growing up in a different part of the world. Here I am over here. We're both strong, opinionated in certain things, but, we seem to agree on everything. And I always want this to be a nice example for everybody else too. This is one of my favorite episodes. I mean, they're all my favorite episodes, I guess I could say, of the Scho-Zone. So take it easy. We're going to probably start posting about 2 episodes a week or so. This one will probably you'll probably be seeing this on a Wednesday. So everybody, until next time, welcome to enjoy your, I'm terrible at ending things. Okay. Like I said, I'm terrible at ending things.